All right, so one of the things that we'd like to be able to do is that show the current module that is selected, based on the ID here, right? Ideally, notice that I click on this, right? Even though the URL is changing, the user interface is not giving us any feedback, right? That matches with the change of the state. Okay, so what we might want to do here, what we could do is style these hyperlinks in such a way that it highlights the current um, hyperlink, if it has changed. For instance, what we could do is we could do maybe add some piece of content, right, or maybe some class and highlight it, with the background. So let's play around with that a little bit. And we could style this as a class. We could use it to say that this is a list group, and that each one of these URLs, each one of these hyperlinks, right, these are list group item. Okay, so that looks a little better. And then as I click each one of these, maybe we could highlight it, right? And the way we highlight it, right, is by changing the style of this class, right? If we add active, notice that they all highlight as blue. You actually can't almost see them. So actually, there's a better implementation of this. But all right, let's keep it like that. What we're going to do is that instead of having this active always, we want this active to be dynamic, right? The way we can make it dynamic is that we can turn on active yes and no depending on the ID of the module. If the ID of the module that I'm rendering is equal to the currently selected one, then I want to show it active. But first I need to make sure that I have access to this information. How can we have access to information? Is through the router, right? If we go to the module list, just like we parse the ID of the course from the URL, we can also parse the module ID. That's also there, right? We can say, this module ID is equal to params module ID. Yes, right? And we can render it. Let's remove the active, right? We can to make sure that we are getting a hold of it. Let's print it. Let's see. There it is. That's the ID of the module, right? If I click on different modules, notice that the ID changes. See that? So we should be able to compare this ID with the current module ID and then highlight it correctly, right? Notice that if we display the module ID next to it, we should be able to compare, right, the ID that is encoded in the URL, compare it against one of these, and depending on that, we can highlight it. All right, so let's do that. All right, so how do we highlight? So the way, let's see, can we highlight it here? I don't know, let me see. Does active do anything? No, it doesn't do anything here. It only does it when it's applied to the list. So we can what we could do is we can calculate and decide the class we want to apply based on a condition. And to do that, there is a class. There's a class attribute, angular attribute, that allows us to provide an expression that says apply the following class if this is true. Okay, and say I want to apply the active class if the following expression is true. If the module ID is equal to the module underscore ID. If it is true, then I want it to be active. and there it is. Right, so if I click on different ones, notice that indeed it is activating. Now, the rendering is a little bit off. Perhaps what we might want to do, right, in the CSS, we can say that if it's active, the class active, followed by a hyperlink, the hyperlink color should be white. There it is. Okay, so notice that now it can be red. Okay, did that make sense? Right, that I can select the current module, and it highlights. Notice that it survives. It survives re-rendering, right? Because the state is encoded in the URL, and I can recreate the page, right, and the look and feel, all driven by the state encoded in the URL, right? And that's a very good practice. Okay. All right.